You gave your heart to people who didn't know what to do with it. You poured out your soul to someone who couldn't even hold space for your silence. You kept showing up for people who only opened the door when it was convenient for them. And now you're here, broken, confused, empty, wondering if love is even real, or if you were just born to give and never receive. You learned to survive by shrinking yourself. You kept saying, "It's fine," just to keep the peace. You ignored your own needs so you could be enough for someone else. But love isn't sacrifice at the cost of self. Love is not pain wrapped in pretty words. And if you've been taught that it is, it's time to unlearn everything. Because here's the truth. If you don't know how to love yourself, you'll always fall for people who reflect your wounds instead of your worth. You chase. You beg. You try to prove that you're enough, when you've been enough from the beginning. But when you're starving for love, you'll settle for crumbs. You'll mistake chaos for chemistry. You'll confuse attention for affection. You'll call the storm a soulmate just because it reminds you of home, even when home was dysfunctional. You don't just wake up one day and feel broken. It happens slowly. It builds up over time. A betrayal here, a silence there, a goodbye you never saw coming, a lie you believed because you needed it to be true. One day you're full of light, and the next, you're just trying to breathe through the weight on your chest. You look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back. You smile in public, but your soul is screaming in private. And the worst part, you think it's your fault. You think something must be wrong with you, because how else could so many people leave? How else could love hurt this much? How else could you keep giving and never feel full? You learned to make excuses for people who didn't deserve your loyalty. You learned to stay quiet to avoid arguments. You learned to accept less because you were afraid that asking for more would make them walk away. And they walked anyway. Now you're standing in the wreckage of everything you once called love. Pieces of yourself scattered across memories that still haunt you. You're afraid to trust, afraid to open up, afraid to believe that someone could see you, truly see you, and still stay. Because every time you tried, love felt like a war you were always losing, and somewhere along the way, you started believing that maybe, just maybe, you weren't worth loving at all. But let me tell you something your pain might not want you to hear. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are not unworthy because someone else couldn't recognize your value. You are not hard to love because someone lacked the capacity to hold space for your soul. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too emotional. You are not the problem. You were just loving people who couldn't meet you at the depth you were willing to go. You gave love to those who didn't know how to receive it. You stayed loyal to people who only knew how to take. You saw potential in others and ignored patterns. You tried to fix what you didn't break, and now you're left cleaning up the mess with a heart full of questions and a mind full of memories that won't let you sleep. But this pain, it's not the end. It's a beginning disguised as rock bottom. Because sometimes you have to lose yourself to find the parts that were never real. Sometimes the collapse is what makes space for the rebuilding. Sometimes the pain is the teacher that finally wakes you up. And right now, in the middle of all this darkness, there's something you need to understand. You are still worthy. Even when they left, even when they cheated, even when they forgot you, even when they made you feel invisible, you are still worthy. Even when you stayed too long, even when you ignored your gut, even when you broke your own heart trying to protect theirs, you are still worthy. Even when you cried yourself to sleep, even when you begged for someone to choose you, even when you doubted everything about yourself, you are still worthy. Worthy of love, of peace, of joy, of real connection. But first, you must come back home to yourself. You must remember who you were before the world made you forget, before they conditioned you to believe that love had to hurt, before you thought sacrifice meant success, before you gave yourself away in pieces just to be enough, because you were never meant to beg, you were never meant to chase, you were never meant to convince someone of your value. The right people, the ones who see you, respect you, feel you. They won't need convincing. They will recognize your heart, not because you shout, but because it radiates through your silence. But before they can love you, you have to stop abandoning yourself. You've been taught that self-love is selfish, that boundaries are walls, that protecting your peace means you're cold, that healing means moving on quickly and smiling through the pain. That's a lie. Self-love is survival. Boundaries are bridges to real connection. Protecting your peace is a declaration that you will no longer sacrifice your soul just to make someone else feel comfortable. And healing is messy. It's ugly. It's not a straight line. It's a battlefield. But it's where your power is born. You don't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. You heal by facing the hurt, feeling it fully, and choosing yourself anyway. You heal when you stop blaming yourself for what they did. You heal when you stop making their inability to love a reflection of your worth. You heal when you sit in the silence, listen to the ache, and realize that even with all the cracks, you are still whole. Yes, they broke your heart, but they didn't break your soul. Yes, you feel lost, but you are not beyond repair. Yes, you made mistakes, but you are not defined by your pain. You are evolving, and sometimes evolution requires destruction. The old you had to break, because they were still living in survival mode, still chasing love as validation, still afraid of being alone. But now you're learning, now you're choosing different. Now you're seeing the red flags and turning the other way. Now you're not tolerating emotional starvation just to say you're in a relationship. Now you're realizing that your love is a gift, not a weapon to use against yourself. Not something to trade for temporary attention, not something to offer to people who can't hold it with care. You are not just someone to love. You are love. You are the softness this world forgot, the fire it fears, the mirror people avoid when they're not ready to confront their own emptiness. That's why they couldn't stay, not because you were unworthy, but because your depth demanded truth, and truth terrifies people who are hiding from themselves. So yes, they left. Yes, it hurt. Yes, you cried, but now it's time to rise. Not as a version that pleases them, but as the version that finally honors you. The you that doesn't need to perform. The you that sets boundaries without guilt. The you that looks in the mirror and says, even if no one chooses me today, I choose me. Say it again, I choose me. Say it until it becomes your anthem. Say it until your spirit believes it. Say it until your heart stops waiting for someone else to do what only you can do. Because love without self-love is a house without a foundation. And no matter how beautiful it looks from the outside, it will always collapse. You've spent too long trying to earn love by losing yourself. But you don't have to prove anything to be loved. You just have to be you. The raw, real, beautifully imperfect you. And the moment you begin to show up fully as that person, the wrong people will fall away. But the right ones, they'll find you, not because you begged, but because your authenticity became a lighthouse in their storm. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. You're not damaged. You're rediscovering. You're not too much. You're just too real for people who are hiding behind masks. Let that sink in. Let it root deep into your bones. Let it rewrite every lie that ever told you that you weren't enough. And let it remind you, the people who couldn't love you were never the final chapter. They were the lesson, the reflection, the test. But you are the story, the journey, the truth, and you are just getting started. So cry if you must. Scream if you have to. Sit in the silence and feel it all. But don't ever again question your worth just because someone couldn't meet you where you were. Your depth is not a burden. Your standards are not too high. Your love is not too intense. It's just that you were trying to plant roses in concrete. And some people are just not ready to bloom. But you are ready. You've blood. You've broken. You've bent. But you never gave up. And that is what makes you worthy. Not your past, not your pain, not their approval, but your heart, your resilience, your willingness to still love even after everything. So love again, not just romantically. Love yourself, love your healing, love your solitude, love your journey, love your voice, love your scars. Because all of it is part of your becoming. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are rising. And no matter how dark it feels right now, you are still the light. So take a deep breath, wipe your tears, stand up, and walk forward. Not because it's easy, not because you feel ready, but because you finally know the truth. You are broken, yes, but you are still worthy. Always will be. You've been searching for love in all the places you were never supposed to find it. In eyes that didn't see you. In arms that only held you when it was convenient. In promises that melted the moment life got difficult. You've given too much of yourself away, hoping someone would finally give a piece of themselves back. And now you're exhausted, disappointed, and questioning everything. Questioning your worth. Questioning your identity. Questioning if love was ever real, or just a lie you desperately wanted to believe. But here's the truth that your heartbreak was always leading you to. You will never find love out there until you find it in here, inside you. In the quiet spaces you've been avoiding. In the wounds you keep trying to cover up. In the mirror you refuse to truly look into. Because real love, lasting love, begins with one thing: self-love. And not the cute version of self-love with bottle baths and weekend getaways. I'm talking about the real, gritty, uncomfortable kind. The kind that forces you to confront your shadows. The kind that demands you forgive yourself. The kind that requires you to stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're enough. Because no one can give you the love you don't believe you deserve. You've been taught to seek validation from the outside. Likes, texts, attention, affection. You've been taught to confuse availability with interest, presence with love, intensity with connection. So you keep reaching, chasing, longing for someone else to make you feel whole. But wholeness doesn't come from someone else choosing you. It comes from you choosing you, every damn day. Especially on the days when you feel unlovable. Especially when you feel broken, empty, forgotten. You think love is something you earn. Something you prove you're worthy of. Something you fight for. But love, true love, doesn't demand that you perform. It doesn't want the filtered version of you. It wants the messy, honest, raw, unfiltered you. But how can someone else embrace that version if you haven't yet? Self-love is not arrogance. It's not delusion. It's not ego. Self-love is the decision to never abandon yourself again. It's the courage to stop betraying your needs just to keep someone else happy. It's the strength to walk away from what doesn't feel right, even if it feels familiar. It's the discipline to choose peace over chaos, even when chaos feels like home. Because you cannot heal in the same place that broke you. You cannot build a solid relationship when the foundation is cracked. You cannot love fully if you're still ashamed of your own reflection. You want to be loved. Start by listening to your own voice. Not the one that tells you you're unworthy. Not the one that echoes the voices of the people who hurt you, but the real one, the quiet one, the one that's been whispering to you for years, you are enough. Say it out loud, like your life depends on it, because it does. You are enough. Not when they text back, not when you lose weight, not when you find the right person. Right now, in this moment, you are enough, but you have to believe it, not just intellectually. You have to live like it's true. You have to treat yourself like someone who is worthy of love, even when no one else is doing it for you, because that's what creates the energy that attracts the right people. That's what tells the world, I am not available for anything less than what I give to myself. Self-love is a decision, a lifestyle, a practice. You have to choose it every morning when your mind wants to go back to the pain. You have to choose it when your heart wants to revisit the past. You have to choose it when loneliness creeps in and your old self starts craving the comfort of people who hurt you. And it's not easy. Sometimes self-love looks like letting go of the person you thought was your forever. Sometimes it looks like standing in a room full of people and still choosing yourself. Sometimes it looks like crying alone, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to feel what you used to run from. The world doesn't teach us how to love ourselves. It teaches us how to sell ourselves, how to fix ourselves, how to compete, compare, conform. It tells us we're not enough unless we buy this, become that, look like them. But you don't need to be more. You need to remember who you were before the world told you to be less. You were born worthy, whole, loved. You just forgot. Or maybe you were taught to forget. Every time you were told to quiet your voice. Every time your feelings were dismissed. Every time someone left without explanation. Every time you were judged, ridiculed, abandoned. Piece by piece, you began to believe that love was something you had to earn. But not anymore. From this day forward, you don't beg for love. You don't chase validation. You don't betray your peace to keep someone who was never meant to stay. You don't perform. You don't pretend. You show up as you, fully, loudly, proudly, and anyone who can't meet you there doesn't belong in your life. Loving yourself doesn't mean you never struggle. It means you stop punishing yourself for your humanity. It means you forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better. It means you hold space for your own pain, your own joy, your own healing. It means you stop being at war with your own reflection. Because here's the truth most people are too scared to say. No relationship will ever be enough if you hate yourself when you're alone. Love will always feel temporary. Affection will always feel suspicious. Connection will always feel like a trap. Because your mind will sabotage anything your heart doesn't believe it deserves. And that's why self-love isn't just important, it's foundational. It's the ground you stand on, the shelter you retreat to, the compass you follow when the world gets loud. When you love yourself, you no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer stay silent when something feels wrong. You no longer allow confusion to replace clarity. Because when your relationship with yourself is strong, you refuse to entertain anything that weakens it. You don't need perfect people. You need aligned people. People who mirror the respect you have for yourself. People who add to your peace, not subtract from it. People who celebrate your growth, not fear it. But they can't show up until you do. They can't meet you until you meet yourself. And they can't love you until you love you. So how do you love yourself? You start small. You start with truth, with boundaries, with rest, with discipline, with grace. You start by saying no when your soul says no. You start by eating to nourish, not punish. You start by speaking to yourself like someone you care about. You start by removing people who drain you. You start by doing the hard thing, choosing you. And then you do it again and again until it's no longer something you try to do. It becomes who you are. Not a version, not a mask, but your most authentic self. The self that doesn't shrink, the self that doesn't apologize for existing, the self that loves deeply, freely, without sacrificing identity. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live in truth, and truth always begins with love. Not the kind someone gives you, but the kind you give yourself when no one's watching. Because that's what holds you together when everything else falls apart. That's what protects you when life tries to steal your joy. That's what carries you through heartbreak, rejection, failure. That's what says, even if they leave, I won't leave me. And when you become that version of you, the one who stays no matter what, the world responds. Your energy shifts, your standards rise. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. You stop being addicted to chaos. You stop craving what hurt you. You stop needing approval from people who don't even love themselves. You become the source, the flame, the foundation. You become the love you were always looking for. And suddenly, you're not lonely anymore. Because you've come home to yourself, and that is the beginning of everything. You've been chasing your whole life, chasing people, chasing love, chasing approval, chasing worth. And maybe no one ever told you this. So I'll be the one who does. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. You don't have to run yourself into the ground to be loved. You don't have to bend until you break just to be seen. You don't have to prove your worth to people who never had the capacity to hold it in the first place. You've been running after people who were never running toward you. You've been auditioning for roles in other people's lives, trying to be what they want, say what they need, become what they expect. And all it's done is leave you empty, confused, because the love you thought would save you only ever left you feeling more lost. And somewhere in that cycle of chasing, you forgot that real love doesn't make you feel like you have to catch it. It's not supposed to be a race. It's not supposed to feel like pressure. It's not supposed to feel like work you're doing alone. When it's right, it doesn't need to be forced. When it's real, it finds you, but it can only find the version of you that stops chasing and starts becoming, that stops performing and starts existing, that stops begging and starts embodying. There's a reason you feel exhausted. It's because you've been running after something that was never meant to be caught. Or worse, chasing someone who only ever ran from themselves. You think if you just love harder, they'll stay. If you just change enough, they'll see you. If you just wait a little longer, they'll become who you always believed they could be. But they won't. Not because you weren't enough, but because they were never ready. You see their potential, but love isn't about who someone could be. It's about who they are, right now. Stop making excuses for inconsistency. Stop romanticizing mixed signals. Stop thinking that chaos means passion. Stop calling pain a soulmate. You weren't made to chase. You were made to attract. But you can't attract anything real while your energy is trapped in pursuit. You can't be magnetic when your identity is built on proving. You can't draw in peace when your nervous system is addicted to survival. You want to attract the right kind of love. Start by becoming it. Become what you seek. Become the peace you crave. Become the stability you were never given. Become the wholeness you used to look for in someone else. That's how you change everything, not by changing them, by coming back to you. Chasing love is rooted in fear. Fear of not being chosen. Fear of not being enough. But you are enough, and it's time to start living like it. It's time to stop giving people VIP access to your heart just because they showed up with a smile. It's time to stop investing your energy in people who only give you breadcrumbs. It's time to stop waiting for someone else to give you the love you haven't been giving yourself. Because here's the hard truth: we attract what we believe we deserve, not what we say we want, but what we believe. And if deep down you still think love has to hurt, that you're too damaged, too emotional, too intense, too anything, then you'll keep attracting people who confirm those beliefs. You'll keep chasing situations that match your self-doubt, and it'll feel normal. It'll feel like home, even if it breaks you every time. But what if your normal is actually your wound? What if the chaos you're drawn to is just a reflection of your trauma? What if the people you chase are just mirrors of the love you never received? Not the love you truly deserve. Healing means stepping back and asking yourself, why am I chasing this? What am I hoping to feel? What void am I trying to fill? And what would happen if I stopped running and started receiving? Because receiving love, real love, requires you to believe you're worthy of it. It requires you to slow down, to get still, to get grounded. And for someone who's lived their whole life in survival mode, stillness can feel like death. Calm can feel like danger. And that's where the real work begins. The work isn't chasing someone better. The work is becoming someone who no longer chases. The work is breaking the addiction to unavailable people. The work is feeling the emptiness without trying to fill it with someone else. The work is learning to sit with your loneliness until it turns into something. The work is choosing yourself when it's easier to choose distraction. That's how you shift. That's how you attract. Because what you chase runs, but what you align with flows. When you stop chasing and start healing, everything changes. You stop needing validation. You stop seeking attention. You stop fearing rejection, because you realize the right people don't need to be convinced. They just need to feel your truth. You're not too much. You've just been offering your depth to people who are drowning in the shallow end, and then blaming yourself when they couldn't swim. But you are not here to rescue people who refuse to grow. You are not here to beg for crumbs. You are not here to wait on potential. You are here to rise into your power and allow the ones who are ready to rise with you. Chasing always costs you something. Your peace, your dignity, your center. And the more you chase, the more you tell the universe you don't trust yourself to receive. that you don't believe you're worthy of something that chooses you back, and that message, it creates your reality. But the moment you stop, the moment you turn inward, the moment you let go of the need to force, to control, to convince, that's when things begin to flow. That's when people show up differently. That's when you realize love was never supposed to be earned, only recognized. And you don't need to scream for someone to recognize what's already radiant. You just need to be fully, unapologetically, authentically, that version of you, the one who stands still, the one who knows their value, the one who holds boundaries, the one who radiates peace. That's the version that attracts everything you've ever wanted. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So what are you becoming? Are you becoming more whole or more dependent? Are you becoming more grounded or more frantic? Are you becoming the one who waits for the bare minimum, or the one who demands the standard by being it? It's time to choose. To choose alignment over anxiety. To choose inner peace over external validation. To choose becoming over chasing. Because the truth is, the right love isn't hiding. You are hiding behind wounds, behind pattern. But when you come out of hiding, when you rise in your truth, you become the light they can't unsee. You become the gravity they can't ignore. And suddenly, the chase ends. Not because you finally caught what you were running after, but because you realized you were the thing worth running toward all along. And now, the ones who come to you come correct. They come whole. They come healed. They come real. Because that's what your energy allows. That's what your boundaries protect. That's what your self-love attracts. So stop chasing love. Start becoming it. And watch what finds you. You don't realize you're losing yourself when it's happening. That's the terrifying part. It's subtle. It's slow. It's dressed up in good intentions and hopeful hearts. It's hidden in phrases like compromise and sacrifice and doing what love requires. You start by bending a little, letting something slide, silencing that small voice inside you that says, "This doesn't feel right," just once, and again, until one day you don't recognize your own reflection, not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. You gave and gave, hoping it would make them stay, hoping if you just became who they needed, they'd never leave, hoping if you could shrink yourself just enough, love would finally feel safe. But love was never supposed to ask for your identity in exchange for connection. Love was never supposed to demand that you forget yourself just to be worthy of being seen. But that's what you did, didn't you? You stopped speaking up. You stopped dreaming out loud. You let go of your routines, your rituals, your voice. You went from a bright, bold fire to a flickering candle in someone else's room. You began orbiting around them, around their needs, their moods, their timelines, their expectations. And you told yourself it was love. You told yourself this is just what people do when they care. You told yourself this is normal, even as your soul begged for oxygen. But here's the thing they never teach you about real love. It doesn't require you to lose who you are. It doesn't suffocate. It doesn't erase. Real love amplifies. It makes you more you, not less. And if you have to abandon yourself to be loved, then it was never love. It was control wrapped in connection. It was insecurity disguised as intimacy. It was dependency wearing the mask of devotion. You were taught that love means giving, and it does, but not when that giving becomes surrendering your core. Not when it turns into sacrificing your sanity for someone else's comfort. Not when your self-worth becomes conditional on their happiness. You thought you were loving deeply, but what you were really doing was disappearing in hopes they'd find you. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. That's emotional starvation. That's calling pain romantic because it's all you've ever known. And now you're waking up. You're waking up to the fact that you've been slowly dissolving in the name of connection. That you've been loving others at the expense of loving yourself. That you've been trained to associate selflessness with goodness, even if that selflessness leaves you empty. But love isn't about erasing yourself. Love is about standing fully in your truth and inviting someone else to do the same. It's about two whole people choosing to grow together without asking each other to shrink. It's about support, not suffocation, presence, not possession, freedom, not fear. You've learned the hard way. You've poured yourself out until you were dry. You've lost sleep trying to make sense of someone who couldn't even make sense of themselves. You've bent your boundaries until they snapped. And now it's time to return to yourself. Because loving someone else should never mean unloving you. So what does it actually mean to love without losing yourself? It means you don't abandon your needs. It means your voice matters just as much as theirs. It means you don't stop doing the things that bring you joy just because someone else doesn't understand them. It means you don't become less emotional, less opinionated, less ambitious, less you, just to make someone else feel more comfortable. It means you keep your rituals sacred, your solitude intact, your passions alive. It means you don't ask permission to be who you are. It means your world doesn't shrink to fit inside theirs. Because the right love won't want to confine you. It'll want to expand with you. The right love won't ask you to tone yourself down. It will rise up to meet your volume. And if someone ever makes you feel like you have to choose between being loved and being yourself, choose yourself, because the ones who truly see you, the ones who love you for your soul, not your shape, not your service, not your submission, those people won't make you choose. They'll love you exactly as you are. Not when you're easier, not when you're quieter, not when you're less, but now. Always now. But here's the part you don't want to hear. That kind of love won't find you until you become it for yourself first. Because people treat you the way you treat you. They respond to the energy you carry. And if you keep abandoning yourself, the world will mirror that. If you keep silencing yourself, you'll attract people who never listen. If you keep shrinking, you'll be surrounded by people who demand that you stay small. So stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. Every damn day. When it hurts, choose you. When you're lonely, choose you. When it would be easier to go back to what was breaking you, choose you. Because the moment you do, everything shifts. Your boundaries harden, your energy sharpens, your standards rise. You stop accepting crumbs just because you're starving. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. You stop confusing possession with love. And suddenly, love doesn't feel like sacrifice anymore. It feels like expansion. It feels like safety. It feels like home. But that home has to start inside you. You don't find love by losing yourself. You find it by becoming so grounded in who you are that the only people who can reach you are the ones who honor your fullness. And yes, that means you'll lose people. People who only loved the version of you that served them. People who were addicted to your silence. People who relied on your self-abandonment to stay comfortable. Let them go. Let them walk. Because every time you let go of someone who couldn't love you fully, you make room for someone who can. And in the meantime, love yourself like your life depends on it. Because it does. Nurture your mind. Speak truth to your heart. Rest when you're tired. Set boundaries like they're sacred. Say no without guilt. Say yes without fear. Listen to your intuition. Protect your peace like it's priceless. Because it is, and never again confuse being loved with being needed. You were not put on this earth to complete anyone. You were not born to be someone's emotional crutch. You were not created to be consumed. You are not a fixer. You are not a fantasy. You are not here to keep sacrificing your soul so someone else can stay comfortable in their wounds. You are here to love and be loved in truth, in fullness, in freedom. But first you have to reclaim the parts of you gave away. Every time you changed to keep the peace. Every time you silenced your needs to avoid conflict. Every time you made yourself small so someone else could feel big. Every time you twisted your boundaries into a shape that no longer fit. Take those pieces back and then rebuild. Rebuild the version of you who doesn't flinch at their own reflection. Rebuild the version who says what they mean and means what they say. Rebuild the version who doesn't apologize for taking up space. Rebuild the version who doesn't get lost in someone else's storm. Rebuild the version who remembers that love was never meant to be a battlefield. It was meant to be a sanctuary. But sanctuaries aren't built through self-erasure. They're built through radical truth, through clarity, through courage. So be courageous. Be the kind of person who loves without disappearing. Be the kind of soul that holds space for yourself first and then for someone else. Be the kind of heart that refuses to lose its rhythm just to match someone else's chaos. Because the kind of love that lasts, the kind that heals, the kind that transforms, it doesn't require you to lose yourself. It requires you to find yourself and then never leave again. You keep giving people access to places they've never earned. You keep letting them step over the lines you never really drew. You say it's love. You say it's compassion. You say it's just how you are. But deep down, you know the truth. You're exhausted. Not because you're too kind, but because you're too open with people who haven't shown they deserve the opening. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. You say it's fine when everything inside you is on fire. You pretend you're okay with the things that crush you quietly, all because you're afraid that if you set a boundary, they'll walk away. And maybe they will. But let them, because a boundary is not a wall. It's not punishment. It's not cruelty. A boundary is the most respect you will ever offer. It says, this is where I end and you begin. It says, you don't get to write the rules in my life if you don't live by respect. It says, I will not lose myself to keep you comfortable. And that's terrifying, isn't it? The idea that standing your ground might cost you connection, that telling the truth about your limits might lead to silence, distance, abandonment. But if a relationship can't survive your truth, then it was never built on love in the first place. It was built on compliance, on your silence, on the illusion that your needs didn't matter. And that's not a relationship. That's an arrangement built on self-erasure. You've been taught to feel guilty for protecting yourself, conditioned to believe that being nice means being endlessly available, that being a good person means saying yes when you're breaking, that loving someone means allowing everything. But that's not martyrdom. That's a slow form of emotional suicide disguised as kindness. And it's killing your spirit, isn't it? You say it's just your nature, that you're a giver, that you don't want to hurt anyone. But what about the way you hurt yourself every time you allow something that isn't okay? Every time you give time, energy, space, and love to someone who takes without giving, who drains without pouring, who crosses every line you never enforced. What about the nights you cry alone because you feel invisible in your own life? What about the resentment building like a quiet poison in your chest because you've taught people they can do anything and you'll still stay? This is the truth. People will treat you the way you allow them to. Not always because they're malicious, but because you've trained them. You've trained them to think you'll pick up the phone no matter how many times they ignore yours. You've trained them to believe you'll always make space, even when they never ask how you're doing. You've trained them to expect the most loyal, patient, gentle version of you, even when they give you the most careless, thoughtless version of themselves. And it's time to unlearn that. Because boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about keeping you intact, grounded, powerful, whole. A boundary is not a rejection of others, it's a recognition of yourself. It's saying, I finally believe that my peace matters, that my time is valuable, that my energy is sacred, that I do not owe unlimited access to people who refuse to honor me. You don't need to scream it. You don't need to explain it. You just need to live it. And when you do, when you finally start saying no without guilt, walking away without apology, protecting your space without shame, everything changes, your energy shifts, your spirit strengthens, your circle tightens. And yes, some people will fall away, the ones who only stayed because your boundaries were blurry, the ones who benefited from your self-abandonment, the ones who loved your silence more than your strength. Let them go, because the ones who remain, or the ones who arrive next, will be the ones who see your no as an act of love, not defiance. The ones who don't see your limits as rejection, but as reverence. The ones who don't punish you for having standards, but rise to meet them. That's what real love does. It doesn't require your exhaustion. It doesn't demand your sacrifice. It honors your wholeness. And here's something else they don't teach us. Boundaries don't just protect you from others. They protect you from yourself, from the parts of you that still think love means overextending, from the little kid inside who still believes approval is earned by giving more than you have, from the wounded parts that say, maybe if I do more, they'll choose me. Maybe if I bend just a little more, they'll stay. You are not here to bend anymore. You are not here to become smaller so someone else can feel big. You are not here to break yourself into pieces for someone who never learned how to hold something whole. You are here to rise. And you cannot rise while you are still rooted in the fear of rejection. You cannot rise while you are still trying to prove you're worthy by how much you allow. You cannot rise while you're still betraying yourself to belong. So rise. Draw the line. Say no. Say not anymore. Say this is not acceptable. And say I matter. 2. Even if your voice shakes. Even if your hands tremble. Even if you're terrified they'll leave. Because anyone who leaves because you had the courage to choose yourself was never choosing you in the first place. They were choosing the version of you who didn't know how to say no. But you know now. You know that loving yourself doesn't mean you don't love others. It means you love them with clarity, with strength, with limits, with truth. It means you don't give what you don't have. It means you don't show up at the cost of your own soul. It means your yes is sacred, because it comes from someone who knows when to say no. So let this be the day you stop apologizing for having needs. The day you stop feeling guilty for wanting peace. The day you stop explaining why your heart can't take another half effort, another one-sided conversation, another relationship built on your silence. Let this be the day you look in the mirror and say, I don't need to be liked by everyone to be worthy. I don't need to be everything to everyone to be loved. I just need to be true. I just need to be honest. I just need to be me, and protect that with everything I've got. That is self-respect. That is power. That is love, not the soft, passive kind that lets people walk over you in the name of grace, but the fierce, rooted kind that says, I love you, and I love me too, and I will not abandon myself to keep you. Because you've done that before. You've played the peacekeeper. You've stayed too long. You've swallowed the words. You've softened every edge. You've blurred every line. And it nearly cost you yourself. Not anymore this time. You draw the line early, clearly, firmly. You don't wait until the resentment builds. You don't wait until you're at your breaking point. You protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. You say, I can't be everything for you. You say, that doesn't work for me. You say, I need space, I need clarity, I need more. And the ones who love you, really love you, will respect that. They'll listen, they'll shift, they'll rise, because real love doesn't just want access. It wants alignment. It doesn't just want presence, it wants peace. It doesn't just want your time. It wants your truth. But that kind of love only finds the ones who learn how to love themselves first. And loving yourself means building boundaries like fences around your garden, not to keep everything out, but to protect what's growing, because you've done too much work to let just anyone trample through your heart. You've healed too much to let chaos in the back door. You've risen too far to go back to the version of you who tolerated anything in the name of love. That version is gone. This is the version who knows better, who doesn't shrink, who doesn't settle, who doesn't keep the peace at the cost of their power, who doesn't pretend, who doesn't perform. This is the version who says, I am not afraid to lose you if it means I finally get to keep me. And that's what boundaries are. Not walls to keep people out, but bridges to keep you intact, invitations to meet you with respect. Standards that say, if you want access to me, show me you can handle it. You don't owe access to everyone just because they ask nicely. You don't owe space in your life to people who repeatedly violate your peace. You don't owe second chances to those who made a habit of crossing the first. What you owe is truth. To yourself, to your soul, to your sanity, because the most dangerous thing you can ever do is betray yourself in the name of being loved. You were not made to be walked on. You were not made to be consumed. You were not made to be the emotional landfill for other people's chaos. You were made to shine, to rise, to speak, to protect love fiercely and wisely. So love, but do it with boundaries. Give, but do it with balance. Show up, but do it without losing yourself, because your self-respect is not negotiable, not ever again. There will be days where you feel like you've made it out. Days when the weight lifts off your chest, and you finally remember how it feels to breathe without crying. Days when you smile and mean it. When your heart beats without flinching. When the silence doesn't scream. When the memories don't sting as much. You think, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm finally healing. Maybe it's over. But then it hits you. A smell, a song, a name, a dream. Something small and sharp finds its way under your skin. And suddenly you're back there. Back in the place you saw you left behind. Back in the ache, the doubt, the fear. And you ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling this again? I thought I was better. I thought I was done. But that's the first lie that healing tells you. That it happens all at once. That you wake up one day and it's gone. That pain obeys timelines. That wounds close on schedule. That grief is polite, orderly, and logical. It's not. Healing isn't linear. It never was. It's messy, wild, disorienting. It loops and twists and doubles back. It tricks you into thinking you're free, then reminds you that there's more to feel, more to face, more to release. And that doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Healing is not a straight line. It's a sacred spiral. You revisit the same pain, but each time with a little more strength, a little more wisdom, a little more grace for yourself. So if today hurts again, it doesn't mean yesterday was wasted. If the tears return, it doesn't mean the progress was fake. If your chest is heavy again, it doesn't erase the lightness you once felt. Progress isn't perfection. It's presence. It's choosing to stay, to feel, to face what you used to run from. You're not weak for falling apart again. You're brave for still showing up, for still choosing to heal, even when it hurts more than staying numb ever did. And it does hurt. Healing hurts because you have to dig up what you buried. You have to feel what you suppressed. You have to face what you pretended didn't matter. You have to sit with the things that shattered you and look them in the eye. And that takes guts. That takes heart. That takes a level of self-love most people never reach. The kind that says, I will not abandon myself, no matter how messy this gets. You've already been through enough. You shouldn't have to carry this pain. But you do. And that's not fair. But fairness was never guaranteed. Healing is. Healing doesn't make what happened okay. It makes what happened lose control over you. So don't let the world rush you. Don't let anyone shame your timeline. Some days you'll take 10 steps forward. Other days you'll crawl. And some days you'll do nothing but survive. But that's still progress. That's still the work. Because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's sitting in your room, breathing through the ache and not texting them. Sometimes it's crying in the shower and still getting dressed. Sometimes it's deleting the picture and choosing not to look back. Sometimes it's admitting, I miss them, but not letting that make you chase something you already outgrew. You will feel lonely. You will feel empty. You will wonder if healing is worth it when the pain feels permanent. But keep going, because what's waiting for you on the other side is not just relief. It's rebirth. You are not here to remain buried under the rubble of what broke you. You are here to rise, not back to who you were, but into who you're becoming, because healing doesn't return you to your old self. It introduces you to a version of you that never got the chance to live. A version of you that isn't defined by the pain. A version of you that remembers their power, that chooses peace, that speaks truth, that walks away, that sets boundaries, that finally realizes they were always worth saving. And that version doesn't come easy. You have to earn them, with patience, with pain, with sleepless nights and trembling hands, with every brave decision to choose yourself again and again. even when it's the harder thing to do. You're learning to live without the chaos that used to feel like home. That's not easy. You're learning to stop picking at wounds just to feel something familiar. You're learning that silence doesn't mean rejection, that distance doesn't always mean danger. You're learning that stillness can be safe, that peace isn't boring, that love doesn't have to hurt, and that takes time, that takes grace. That takes you falling, standing, and falling again, but always rising one more time than you fall. You have to grieve the version of you who didn't know better, the one who stayed too long, who tolerated too much, who loved without limits, who kept trying to fix what wasn't theirs to heal. That version was doing their best. They were surviving. They were coping. They didn't fail. They just didn't have the tools you have now. Mourn them, then thank them. Because they got you here, you're not the same person you were back then. You think you are because the pain still visits, but you're not. Look how you show up now. Look at the way you don't chase anymore. The way you say no, the way you protect your peace, the way you walk away when something disrespects your soul. That's growth. That's healing. And it's not always obvious. You won't always feel it happening. Some days it looks like crying on the floor. Some days it looks like laughing with friends. Some days it's staring at the ceiling, wondering when it gets easier. But in the background, in your nervous system, in your subconscious, in your bones, everything is changing. You're rewiring beliefs you never chose. You're unlearning patterns you inherited. You're remembering that you were never too much. You were just in the wrong rooms. That you were never too emotional. You were just surrounded by people who feared depth. That your love wasn't wrong. It was just given to people who didn't know what to do with it. But you're not doing that anymore. You're choosing better. Slowly, quietly, powerfully, and that's healing. It's messy, but it's holy. It's painful, but it's necessary. It's lonely, but it's honest. And most of all, it's yours. No one else has to understand it. No one else gets to judge it. Your healing doesn't have to look impressive. It just has to be real. So cry when you need to. Be soft when you feel like collapsing. Scream if the pain gets loud, but don't give up. Don't go back. Don't trade your growth for familiarity, because you didn't come this far to start begging again. You didn't learn all this truth just to return to silence. You didn't break open just to patch yourself up and pretend nothing happened. You're here to evolve. And it's long. And it's messy. But it's worth it, because one day you'll wake up. And it won't hurt like it used to. You'll remember them, and you won't feel like drowning. You'll drive by that place, hear that song, see that photo, and your chest will stay still. You'll smile because you made it. You'll laugh without flinching. You'll love again without fear, and that won't mean you forgot. It'll mean you've integrated. It'll mean you turned your pain into power. It'll mean you finally came home to yourself. That day is coming, and until then, breathe, cry, rest, walk slow, speak kind words to your heart, and every time you get knocked down, whisper this to yourself: healing isn't linear, but it's worth it. Because it is. And so are you. You keep asking for love like it's somewhere out there, like it's something someone else is holding hostage, like it's this elusive reward that only shows up when you're finally perfect enough to deserve it. But the truth is, you are the love you've been looking for. And until you become it, you will keep searching for someone to hand you what only you can give. It's easier to believe the lie that someone else will come in and fix the emptiness. That one day, someone will walk in, look you in the eyes, and everything that's broken will suddenly make sense. That the right person will rescue you from yourself, from your loneliness, from your doubts. But people don't save you, they mirror you. They reflect back what you believe you deserve. And if you still believe that love means proving, chasing, begging, or breaking, then that's exactly what you'll attract. You don't get the love you want. You get the love you are. So if you want a deep, calm, healing kind of love, become it. Become the safe place you crave. Become the tenderness you miss. Become the consistency you beg for. because when you embody it, you no longer look for it in the wrong places. You no longer settle for halfway love. You stop making homes out of people who only visit when it's convenient. You stop trying to convince people to choose you. You stop bleeding just to keep them comfortable. You were not born to beg, you were born to rise. And the love that rises with you cannot be faked. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be forced. It can only be drawn in by the version of you who finally realizes they are worthy without needing permission. You've spent too long putting your heart in other people's hands, praying they don't drop it. You've waited on texts. You've read into silences. You've romanticized inconsistency. You've given your all to people who couldn't give you half. And deep down you knew. You knew it wasn't love, but you were so starved for affection, so addicted to validation, that you called pain a soulmate and thought maybe this is just how it's supposed to feel. But love isn't confusion. Love isn't anxiety. Love isn't being on edge waiting to be chosen. Love isn't shrinking your truth to keep someone who can't hold your full weight. That's trauma. That's a pattern. That's an echo of a wound you never asked for but carried anyway. And it's time to let it go. You keep trying to love others better, thinking that'll fix what's broken inside. But the healing doesn't start with them. It starts with you. The love you want begins with the way you speak to yourself in the silence. The way you treat yourself when no one's watching. The way you set the standard for how others are allowed to treat you. The way you hold your own heart when it's cracked and still beating. And maybe that's why it feels so heavy. Because you've been outsourcing your love to people who don't even know how to love themselves. You've made them the measuring stick of your worth. You've handed over your identity and let them shape it with their silence, their approval, their presence, their withdrawal. And every time they pull away, you lose another piece of yourself. But they are not the source. And when you start treating yourself like the center instead of the side character, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop explaining. You start choosing. You stop settling. You start rising. Because here's the truth, if you don't love yourself, you will never believe someone else does. They'll say the words, and you'll doubt them. They'll show up, and you'll question why. They'll care, and you'll sabotage it. Because somewhere inside, you're still holding the belief that you're unworthy. That your flaws make you hard to love. That your past makes you damaged. That your pain makes you too much. But none of that is true. You're not too much, you're just full of truth, full of depth, full of heart, and not everyone can meet you there. But the people who can, they'll only find you when you stop hiding, so stop abandoning yourself. Stop waiting to be saved. Stop breaking yourself to fit into people who never deserved your pieces in the first place. Stop looking for love in people who haven't even met themselves. And start with you. Start with the way you show up in the mirror. Start with the way you speak to your body. Start with the way you honor your emotions. Start with the way you keep your promises to yourself. Start with the way you choose peace over chaos, even if the chaos feels familiar. Start with the way you refuse to tolerate anything that asks you to sacrifice your sanity. Because the greatest love story you'll ever have isn't the one where someone else finally sees your worth. It's the one where you finally do, where you stop looking out there and begin remembering that everything you've ever needed was already inside you. You were just taught to forget. You were taught that self-love is selfish, that confidence is arrogance, that needing space is rejection, that boundaries are cold. But that's not true. Self-love is sacred. Confidence is clarity. Boundaries are kindness. And space is safety. When you love yourself, you're not just healthier, you're more honest. You stop playing games. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You start being. And from that place, love doesn't become something you chase. It becomes something you choose. Carefully, deliberately. Not from loneliness, not from fear, but from overflow. You don't want love that completes you. You want love that expands you. But you'll never find that kind of expansion from a place of emptiness. You have to fill yourself first with truth, with gentleness, with forgiveness, with fire. With peace, that means doing the work no one claps for, the hard, lonely, unseen work, saying no when it would be easier to say yes, letting go when it would be easier to hold on, walking away when your heart still wants to stay, speaking up when your voice trembles, choosing healing when it would be easier to distract yourself. It's not glamorous. It's not instant. It won't come with applause. But it will build something indestructible inside you. A kind of love that can't be taken away, because it was never dependent on anyone else. A love that knows its worth even when the world forgets. A love that chooses itself first. Not because it's selfish, but because it finally understands that you are home. So if you're tired of the same patterns, the same heartbreaks, the same confusion, look inward. Not to blame yourself, but to meet yourself. The parts of you you've ignored. The wounds you never tended. The little voice that whispers, "Please stop abandoning me." Hold that voice. Love that version. Protect that soul. Because the love you want, the real kind, the kind that stays, the kind that heals, the kind that grows, it doesn't start when they arrive. It starts the moment you stop betraying yourself. From this moment forward, let love be a reflection, not a rescue. Let it be a mirror, not a mask. Let it be a sacred choice, not a desperate reach, and let it begin with you. Real love isn't for the faint of heart. It's not soft music and filtered smiles. It's not perfect photos or fairy tale timelines. It's not built on comfort. It's not sustained by fantasy. Real love is war, not with each other, but with the parts of you that were taught not to trust. It's a battle with the armor you've worn for years, the walls you built to feel safe, the silence you've wrapped yourself in so no one could touch the wounds. Real love doesn't coddle the version of you that avoids truth. It demands your whole self, open, vulnerable, unguarded, and that takes courage most people never develop. Because love, real love, will test you. It will poke at the bruises you never wanted to show. It will make you confront everything you thought you'd buried. The fear of not being enough. The terror of being too much. The shame you never spoke out loud. And it won't ask for the polished version. It won't want the mask. It will want the tears, the cracks. Real love doesn't want the version of you that performs. It wants the one that breaks. Honestly, openly, and still chooses to show up anyway. You want love, but do you want the responsibility that comes with it? Because love isn't just about being chosen. It's about choosing over and over again. Especially when it's inconvenient. Especially when your ego wants to run. Especially when every part of you wants to shut down, shut up, or shut them out. Real love doesn't survive on the easy days. It's built in the hard ones. In the misunderstandings. In the triggers. In the fears. In the "I'm scared, but I'm still here." That's where it lives. That's where it grows. It's easy to love when you're unbothered. When you're calm. When nothing's on the line. But can you love when your whole body is telling you to protect yourself? Can you soften when it would be safer to shut down? Can you tell the truth when it would be easier to walk away? Can you hold someone in their storm without needing to fix them or control them or save them? Because real love doesn't need perfection. It needs presence. It needs someone who stays when it gets messy, who stays when it's hard, who stays when the shadows start to surface. Love that endures isn't built on convenience. It's built on courage. And that kind of courage doesn't come easy. It has to be earned. Through pain. Through honesty. Through choice. You have to face the parts that push people away. The part that shuts down when you feel misunderstood. The part that avoids conflict like it's poison. The part that wants to disappear at the first sign of emotional weight. You have to learn how to hold space for your fear without letting it lead. Because fear will always tell you to run. But love, real love, will ask you to stay. Not stay and suffer, not stay and abandon yourself, but stay and feel, stay and grow, stay and speak, stay and be seen. That's the real risk, isn't it? Not losing them, but being seen, fully, without the mask, without the filters, without the performance, just you, all of you, the raw parts, the soft parts, the broken parts, the parts you've convinced yourself no one could ever hold. Love asks for all of it, And it takes real courage to give that. Because what if they see you and leave? What if they see you and no longer love you? What if they see you and confirm every fear you've tried to bury? That's what keeps most people from ever loving deeply, the fear of exposure. So they settle for surface, they flirt with safety, they dance around intimacy, they build relationships on half-truths and emotional avoidance, and they call it love. But it's not. It's fear wearing a pretty face. Love without courage is just comfort, and comfort isn't connection. It's a compromise. It's a quiet agreement to never go too deep, to never speak too loud, to never ask too much, to never need too much. But you weren't made for that kind of love. You were made for something deeper. You were made to be held when you fall apart. You were made to be seen in your silence. You were made to be chosen when you're scared, insecure, imperfect. But to receive that kind of love, you have to be brave enough to offer it. Brave enough to show up first. Brave enough to risk rejection. Brave enough to sit in discomfort without shutting down. Brave enough to speak your needs, even when your voice shakes. Brave enough to hold someone else's truth without making it about you. Brave enough to stay even when everything in you says run, because that's what real love requires. Bravery, not drama, not chaos, not obsession, but bravery. It takes bravery to say, I love you, and I'm scared. To say, I don't know how to do this, but I want to try. To say, this is my truth. Please hold it with care. It takes bravery to admit you don't have it all figured out. To admit you're still healing. To admit you're scared of being left, but you're showing up anyway. It takes bravery to open your chest and say, please don't run. And yes, they might run. But your courage is not wasted, because every time you love with your whole chest, even when it's terrifying, even when you've been burned before, even when you don't know how it ends, you grow, you expand, you become stronger, you become more you. And that kind of love, the love that stretches you, that refines you, that challenges you, it's not always comfortable, but it's always real. So stop running from it. Stop hiding behind sarcasm, silence, distance. Stop pretending you don't care when you do. Stop testing people to see if they'll fail you before you've even let them try. Stop ghosting when the emotions get big. Stop punishing others for the wounds someone else gave you. Stop guarding your heart so tightly that nothing can reach it, not even the love you say you want. Because here's the truth no one tells you, love will hurt. Even real love, especially real love. Because it will dig, it will reveal, it will expose the parts of you that need healing. But that's not to break you, it's to free you. Love isn't supposed to keep you hidden. It's supposed to help you return to yourself, to your truth, to your softness. You're not hard because you want to be. You're hard because you had to be. You learned that love meant pain, inconsistency, abandonment. You learned to protect yourself. But protection isn't the same as healing. A guarded heart may be safe, but it's also alone, and you're not here to live half alive. You're here to feel, fully, deeply, honestly, but it's going to take everything you've got. It will take unlearning. It will take discomfort. It will take falling and getting back up again. It will take days where your entire nervous system says, shut down, and you still choose to lean in. It will take letting someone hold you, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to let go of the armor. It will take being misunderstood and still explaining, being triggered and still staying, being afraid and still loving, because that's courage. That's what makes love real. Not perfection, not passion, not endless chemistry, but two people fully human, choosing to show up again and again, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. You want to be loved. Be brave enough to be seen. You want to be held. Be brave enough to fall. You want to be chosen. Be brave enough to choose yourself first. Because love doesn't begin when someone shows up. Love begins when you do. When you stop hiding. When you stop pretending. When you stop performing and start being. And if someone can't meet you there, that's not your loss, that's their limitation. Real love requires real courage. Courage to be alone rather than accepted in pieces. Courage to walk away rather than stay where you're not safe. Courage to speak your truth rather than live in silence. Courage to risk it all, not because you're reckless, but because you know the only love worth having is the kind that sees you, holds you, and stays. So be brave. Not reckless, not naive, but brave. Let love stretch you. Let it challenge your old stories. Let it rewrite your old patterns. Let it teach you how to stay soft in a world that taught you to be hard. Let it teach you how to stay open when everything in you wants to shut down. Let it teach you how to hold hands with someone else without letting go of yourself. That's real love. And yes, it takes real courage. But you've always had it in you. Even when you were breaking. Even when you were scared. Even when you didn't believe it. Even now. Especially now. So go love like it's the bravest thing you've ever done. Because it is. And it's time. Let me know if you'd like a full cinematic YouTube script version, or if you're ready to move forward with your next audiobook chapter or project. Real love demands the kind of courage that strips away everything false. The masks, the fear, the performance, and asks you to stand there, fully seen, fully feeling, fully human. It's not easy, and it was never meant to be, but it's worth every trembling word, every moment of vulnerability, every time you choose connection over ego, truth over comfort, and healing over hiding. Because the love you're searching for is not something you find. It's something you become. And when you have the courage to love from that place, real, raw, and open, the kind of love that stays, grows, and sets you free will finally find its way to you.